You are listening to One Nation Under Crime, a chronological historical true crime podcast. Each week, we go through our nation's history and discuss one case from each year starting in 1800. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Leah.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Woohoo! We are now 2 days out. We're recording New Year's Day, so
We really are.
we are
It is a new year.
fresh into the new year.
Yes, we are.
Right in it.
I was the first person Kayla saw this new year.
Yeah. Very true. We were supposed to record earlier, and I told my boyfriend, because I was laying in bed and doorbell rang, and we had, New Year's Eve stuff last night, and I even looked at him and I was like, I told him later, I was like, I didn't order anything from Amazon, so I didn't know why the doorbell was ringing. And then I remembered, oh no, what time is it? Because someone is headed off to the happiest place on earth tomorrow. Yes.
I'm so excited.
So,
I even got my nails did. I got some.
She did. She got some mini bows and some Mickey ears on her nails.
Mini ears, because they have bows.
True. You'll have to see. I'm curious to see how many hidden Mickeys you'll find. Because you know about the hidden Mickeys.
I do.
So you'll have to figure out. This is Leah's first time going to Disney World.
First time.
Ever.
And people that know me are totally shocked because I'm such a Disney nerd.
I'm very shocked that you've not been before. Because I've been at least 5 times maybe to Disney.
I'm such a Disney nerd too.
Oh,
like Disney
Disney
trivia in my family is like it's vicious, it's throwdown.
Mm-hmm.
My sister worked. We're from Birmingham in the area, and the Galleria Mall was one of the original 13 Disney stores. It had one of the original 13.
I
and my
miss
sister, I know
the Disney store.
My sister worked there, like through college and even through law school.
I probably saw her a lot.
Oh, I'm sure.
I loved it.
It was one of the best
Disney
stores.
store was the best.
I know, but now it's not the Disney store anymore, and it hurts my heart. Of course, I don't go to the Galleria anymore.
No, I
There've
don't
been
think
some things go down there.
Yeah, the
Galleria.
it's
not the same as it used to be.
It's not the same as it used to be. I will say though, they're doing a lot more. They're revamping our mall. They're like making it more. So we have 2 local malls in the area, and both of them have a different vibe to them. And
that's a good way to put that. Excuse me, Claire. I'm sorry.
Claire's deciding she needs all of Leah's attention.
All of it. Sorry.
So we have one mall that is like the big mall that we have. Then we have another mall that's like smaller. It's more quaint, but everything in it just keeps closing.
Yeah.
Because it's not convenient, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
But it's a nice mall. Like it always has been, but it's always been the small mall.
Yeah.
And so I think our bigger one in the area is moving more towards like boutique style shopping. They're pushing more stuff in that direction and trying to like revamp the mall.
Yeah, but I think the area is just kind of...
I know, and which I hate because I liked the mall.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the mall. And have you seen all the posts where you can like see abandoned malls? They're really cool. It's kind of creepy but cool at the same time. There's one mall that like a lot of people, don't come for me, people. I don't watch the show, and I know Leah probably has not watched the show, but Stranger Things on Netflix
creeped me out. I tried to. It creeped me out.
I've not watched it at all.
Creeped me out.
And
now my sister and her boys love it.
Well, the mall that they are filming in right now is just down the road from my boyfriend's family.
Oh, cool.
And it is an abandoned mall that, it's still decorated for, 70s, 80s.
Oh, no.
Well, because that's where, Stranger Things is kind of set. And so they have been using that mall. Not fun, but fun-ish fact for whoever. There was a murder in that mall.
Not fun.
And
not fun fact.
I'm saying, for people...
Murder is not fun.
Well, we know. I put that in our Christmas post for anyone who didn't see. So
it made me happy, made me chuckle.
But yeah, there was a murder in that mall, and it's kind of crazy. But it's the same mall that Stranger Things was filmed in. I feel like malls could be really cool if they made malls could make a comeback. And I feel like if they would just put me on the board, I could make this.
Let Kayla be in charge.
Like, how fun would it just put like a roller skating rink in the mall?
Because those are making a comeback.
And they should, first of all, nothing better than a good roller skating rink, honestly.
Now, when I was in middle school, that was
a long time. Oh, sorry.
I will cut. That was the thing, to go to the roller skating rink.
The roller skating rink. It's so much fun.
I never had anybody to skate with for couples skate.
I would have skated with you.
Oh, thanks. You're welcome. But yeah, I'm not a very good skater either. And it was so sad. I got rollerblades.
I love rollerblades.
Well, I'm not so good at it. I'm really not so good at anything that requires coordination. I'm good at a lot of things, but anything that requires coordination is not one of those things that I'm good at. But that's okay.
We all know our strong suits.
Exactly.
In life.
Know your limits. Know your limits. And my limits are, coordination things. But anyway, I got rollerblades. And I tried. I mean, I do get out and try. Like I've tried ice skating, and I try because
ice skating's hard.
It's fun. It is hard, and I mean, I try, and it's fun, and I get out and I try, and I fail, but I try. But then my brother, who is much younger than me, grew into my rollerblades, and buddy, he was just zipping back and forth, and so we'd go skating, and he would like skate backwards and hold my hands and pull me around. I was like, okay, this is cool.
So when I worked, if anybody that's listening has ever, and this is kind of like a very specific situation, if anybody is listening, whoever has worked at a Best Buy, like in late high school to early college years, you will know Best Buy is like a hub. And I'm saying this in the nicest way because I worked there, so please understand that as well. It's like this nice little hub of weirdos. Like everybody has, but it's true, like everybody has their own quirk. Like everybody's very different from one another because you work in different departments. And so you're kind of like good at what you're good at. Well, I worked at Best Buy, and there was a guy that works there. His name's Chris. I don't know if he listens or his wife listens, but if he knows who he is.
Of course he knows who he is.
Well, he would like competition roller skate. And so he was like good at roller skating.
And that amazes and impresses me,
and so
because I'm so bad at it.
We would go roller skating. There's this place on like 280 in Birmingham, and we would go roller skating there occasionally. And it was like, he was amazing at roller skating. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
That is a skill.
He was so good at it. But yeah, so I worked with such a weird group of people. Like it was just such a weird like conglomerate of weirdos. It truly was like the Breakfast Club. Like everybody was just very.
You were the princess.
Oh, I don't know. I was probably more emo.
I would be the princess.
Anyways, we're places that you work at sometimes, like when you're in high school and like early college, you just look back at it and you're like, how did they let us run anything? Like, how?
I worked at a bank and at the YMCA.
I worked at a pizza place. I worked a lot of places, but I worked a lot of retail. But Best Buy I worked at for quite a while, which is funny because my boyfriend needed something the other day, like right before Christmas, and he was like, well, we need to go to Best Buy. And I was like, I haven't been at Best Buy. I don't even know how long. And we walked in, and it was one of those things like, I have scent memories. And I walked in and I just went, oh, and he goes, what? And I go, why does and now that I say it, if you are a frequenter of Best Buy or multiple,
they all have
you'll know
a certain smell.
They all smell the same.
In schools.
All of them. Schools smell the same too. Yes. It's the weirdest thing. But there's like certain places, and Best Buy is one of them. Like I can walk in and I know, and because I worked there for so long too, but it was like I walked in and I went, whoa.
But you know the best smell? The best smell? An old bookstore
Disney
or
library.
No, an old bookstore or library.
Oh, I love the smell of a good book.
Old books. Oh my gosh.
So you'll figure out when you go and you'll see. So I am quite the Disney nerd when it comes to Disney World. I may or may not have helped Leah this past week with some of her traveling to make sure she's going to the right places, and to ensure that she is making the most of her time, because I had to tell her, you need to go. Like, she was asking me if she needed to go to the parks an extra day, and I was like, duh.
Is that really a question?
Seriously? But Leah's never been there before, so she doesn't know all of the
and like the must-see things at the parks.
Yeah,
like, you know,
this is the place you need to go here. She had some reservations at a bunch of different places, and I was like, oh, I would go here because this place is really, really good, or I would go here because this one's good. I don't understand how Disney does their meal times, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Disney's weird about it. But on Main Street in Disney World, they pump smells.
Yes, I do know about that.
And it smells like popcorn and cotton candy and something else. But there's certain rides that have smells to them, and
which I think is a really neat idea.
Well, and some of them are not intentional. That's just how the ride, Pirates of the Caribbean, doesn't have a true smell, but it's because they use cannon powder and because you're in water, which is a really cool ride, but it has a smell to it. The Haunted Mansion has a smell to it, and it has it's just the best ride of all time. But you either love Haunted Mansion or you don't, and
I'll let you know.
You have no choice. I love it, and it's because it's just such a fun. It's a fun immersive ride, and the movie was created from the ride. It's one of the only things that's gone backwards that way. There was the ride, then the movie, which is such a good movie. I've talked about it before. One of Eddie Murphy's best performances.
I love Eddie
in my
Murphy.
opinion.
I mean, Mushu, come on.
So funny.
Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow.
So good. But the Haunted Mansion has a certain, it's a musty smell.
There's a line of candles.
Yeah. And I've gotten them. So Spaceship Earth has a certain smell. It's in Epcot. You and I like kind of similar things. You'll probably Spaceship is inside, for those who don't know the names of the rides like I do. Spaceship Earth is what is inside the golf ball.
Yes.
Even though I know that's not what it is, but it's inside the golf ball. But it's a lot of fun, and it has a certain smell. And I had a candle for quite a while that smells like Spaceship Earth, because it smells like an old library and burning paper and a bunch of different things. But yeah, there's lines of candles that smell, and they have hotel candles that smell like your hotel, and all the hotels have their own smell. It's Disney's the best. I told Leah the other day, I was like, I just need to be a Disney travel agent, because
and you know what?
I know
I'll be
everything
happy
about
to
it.
go with you
Yes.
to get more information.
I know.
I'll be happy to help you.
And I will tell everybody. I tell everybody the same thing. My hack for Magic Kingdom, and most people do know this, but most people don't. If you go to Magic Kingdom, go to the left every time, because mentally people will automatically go to the right.
Because most people are right-handed.
And so if you go, you'll end up at some point catching up to ride times to where they start to increase.
Yeah, in the middle.
But if you start at the left and go you go clockwise instead of counterclockwise, then you will be able to ride more things because of ride times.
What's funny, my mother's left-handed and I'm right-handed, and we went to guys, if the Van Gogh experience comes to your city,
I think we talked about that.
Go to it. I don't know if we did or not. I know you and I have talked about it.
We did talk about it.
We did. Okay, because Mom turned to the left and I turned to the right, and we ended up bumping into each other. And it was so funny. So anyway,
it's if you ever go to Disney World, or if you ever want to know where to eat at any place, I can tell you exactly where to go eat. I can tell you the places that I've been that I would go. There was one place that it is good. Don't get me wrong; it is a very good place to eat. But I know Leah's taste in food, and I was like, man, it's okay. It's more for the experience than it is the food. And personally, if I'm spending that much on food, I want the food to be good, not just the experience. And the food was good, but it was just very which now, I mean, if me and my boyfriend ever go to Disney World, it's going to be a nightmare because he's a cook. And so he's very,
he's a connoisseur.
I know. And getting him to Disney World would probably be a feat in and of itself because he is not. I mean, like, I'm not a crowd person, but I can be a crowd person for Disney World. And you're also going to Harry Potter World. So I'm telling you, I should just be an Orlando travel agent because I know.
I mean,
everything
guys,
about
I have
those
my Luna
places.
shirt.
Ugh,
I'm so
excited.
ready.
It's.
I'm not a Ravenclaw, but I am a Luna fan just because she's so great. I love Luna.
I have decided to go off of my house as like my Enneagram, like how. You have certain Enneagrams, but like you have wings. So like you're this, but you're like I think I'm a 1 wing too, which is very accurate.
I think I'm a.
You're a 2 wing 9, or you're a 9 wing 2.
Yeah,
it's something like that. But you've got a 2 in yours.
Yeah, I'm a 9 too.
Yeah. And so I've now come to the conclusion, and I'm happy with it, that I'm a Ravenclaw wing Slytherin. I'm fine with it.
It's true.
I'm fine with it. I mean,
I'm a Hufflepuff.
You are a Hufflepuff.
But you know what? I took you can do the Pottermore, and you can see like what your alternate house, and it was Ravenclaw.
I could see that. But you are a Hufflepuff.
I am. I'm loyal.
I'm a Slytherin. Truly. I think that my Ravenclaw shell.
Because you're so analytical.
Yeah, I think that's what overcomes my Slytherin tendencies.
It is. I mean,
but I'm okay with that. Blue and green is 2 of my best colors. So yellow is not my color. Neither is red. And that's fine. It's fine.
I look good in yellow.
I do not. I'm not a yellow person. My skin tone does not.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I don't have it. No, I have a jewel skin tone color. Like jewel tones look good on me. So
I look good in everything.
I mean,
We have gone off on a tangent first thing.
That's all right.
Happy New Year!
And we have 2 other things at the top this week. 3 things. 1, yes, I do sound sick. I apologize immensely. It would have been way worse if we recorded the other night because I had no voice. So
yeah.
I apologize for my weird sounding voice, and I'm sorry if it annoys people. You just have 2 episodes to get through. Number 2, we'll end with the happy thing. Second, number 2, yes, y'all were supposed to get a bonus episode this week. No, you did not get your bonus episode. Why? Kayla's sick.
Very sad.
And I had to prioritize rest.
Yes, I told
writing.
her she better get her honey in bed.
No,
and
you did not.
Tea. Did you drink tea?
I didn't really want to. My boyfriend had made this garlic honey, and I took a few spoonfuls of it, which not on food, not great, but because honey is like really good for your system, and so is garlic, it did help my voice pretty well. So,
well,
that was good. So yes, you were supposed to have an episode come out this week. I apologize. I'll make it up to y'all somehow. And then our last thing, our happy for the week.
Happy.
And Leah doesn't know about this yet because I didn't tell her about it.
I thought the happy was that I went to get to go to Disney, because that's really happy.
That is true.
With my husband.
We get to shout out one of our Patreons for a second time because they increased their Patreon donation.
Yay!
So shout out to our friend Ryan in Iowa. Hi, Ryan.
You're the greatest. We love you.
Ryan sent us a very nice,
very kind
message on Christmas Eve, and I may or may not have cried. And
she may have sent me a message being like, "Oh my gosh, I
got very emotional very quickly, and even to where my boyfriend was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?"
And she wasn't sick or anything; like she was really just overcome. And Kayla does not get overcome.
I don't. No.
Like she didn't even give me a hug when I gave her Christmas present, which was perfect. And I'm still a little bit miffed, but whatever.
It's fine.
Little salty.
You know how I am. That was what Clara was for. That's what she was.
I did not give her the present. I gave it to you. I gave you a Luna cup.
That's true.
But whatever.
My animals are my proxy. They're the ones. They give the attention that I need to others. So I'm not a touch. I don't like to be touched. I'm weird.
She's a cactus.
I am. prickly Ravenclaw.
Slytherin.
So, we have an interesting case this week.
They're always interesting. That's why you pick them.
Yes, and we'll go into why this one's interesting a little bit later, but we are going to touch on some themes we have in the past.
Ooh, I like it when they Oh no, I'm not gonna like this one.
When I say some of the sources, or when I say one of the sources in particular, you'll know what direction it goes.
We're gonna have bones set up.
We will talk about bones, yes, but it's very, very interesting and it's very intriguing, and there's a reason.
Okay. I mean, as long as it's not like, hey, come check out these bones.
Next week's episode, guys, I'll make sure that Leah doesn't say anything.
What?
Because it's very intriguing and it's very interesting. So we'll get to that. Y'all just hang around for next week because it's a fun time.
Muzzle me.
So I'll have to. Our sources for this week. We have Irish Central. That should be your hint for the direction that this is going. The Washington Post and Hidden City. Our events in 1832, January 2nd, the first curling club in the United States opened.
I know where curling was invented. Do you?
Was it Scotland?
Scotland.
I could have figured that. January 6th, the New England Anti-Slavery Society was organized in Boston, Massachusetts. February 9th, the city of Jacksonville, Florida received its town charter from the Legislative Council of the Florida Territory. April 6th, the Black Hawk War began. May 9th, classes at Lafayette College began in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Lafayette.
I'm taking this source from the reading.
I can't help it every time.
May 21st, the first Democratic National Convention was held in Baltimore, Maryland. June 16th, the Battle of Kellogg's Grove occurred in Illinois.
Was this ever cereal?
Didn't say, but I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of. June 22nd, John Howe patented the pen manufacturing machine.
P-E-N or P-I-N?
P-I-N.
Okay.
July 4th, John Neal delivered the first public lecture in the United States advocating for the rights of women.
Votes for women.
It's good, man.
What movie?
Huh?
Votes for women.
Oh, I don't know at this moment.
We're merely soldiers and petty.
I'm barely here. So you should know that.
It's Mary Poppins.
Oh.
Mrs. Banks.
Let's see. Where was I?
Sorry.
Oh, July 10th. President Andrew Jackson vetoed legislation that would recharter the Second Bank of the United States. July 13th, the source of the Mississippi River was discovered by American geographer Henry Schoolcraft.
That's a fun name.
I like that last name. It's a fun one. July 24th, Benjamin Bonneville. You gotta love a good alliteration, too.
I do love alliteration.
I love a good alliteration. Led the first wagon train across the Rocky Mountains by Wyoming's South Pass. July 25th, the first railroad accident occurred on the Granite Railway in Quincy, Massachusetts, and it killed one person. July to August of that year, the cholera pandemic reached the northeastern seaboard, and it began in New York City.
Cholera, bad news.
We'll talk about it more. October 19th, the Alpha Delta Phi fraternity was founded at Hamilton College in New York. November 14th, the first horse-drawn streetcar was debuted in New York City. It traveled from 4th Avenue between Prince and 14th Street, and the fare was 12 cents.
I could afford that. Could you imagine just paying 14 cents for an Uber?
12.
12.
That was 12.
Why did I think 14?
I don't know. Crazy. I said November 14th. So there we go. That's why.
Okay.
November 24th, the South Carolina passed the Ordinance of Nullification, which declared the tariffs of 1828 and 1832 unconstitutional and unenforceable in South Carolina. And it was the beginning of the nullification crisis, which started staging the Civil War. That was the tariff that they called it the Tariff of Abominations. That was what they were working on. December 5th, President Andrew Jackson was re-elected for a second term, and he defeated Henry Clay. December 24th, the first hospital for Black people founded by whites was chartered in Savannah, Georgia.
I've been there.
Curious that it was in Savannah, honestly.
Yeah.
December 28th.
Well, because they segregated in the South. And in the North, they wouldn't have necessarily segregated. I mean, that's why it was
very
there.
Yeah, so Savannah was for it to be Savannah was very interesting. December 28th, John C. Calhoun became the first vice president to resign due to his differences with President Jackson. Our undated events in 1832, the secret society Skull and Bones was established at Yale University. That was the topic we're supposed to cover for our USBS, so you will get that eventually.
One fine day.
It's very interesting. They helped establish a lot of different things. There's some thoughts that maybe they have control over who becomes president. Anyway, it's a lot of conspiracy theory things, but there's a lot of interesting people who have been in Skull and Bones and some interesting things that have happened. So we'll go into it eventually. Let's see. The Wills Eye Hospital in Philadelphia was funded, and John Neal published The Haunted Man, which is the first work of American fiction to use psychotherapy as a theme. John Neal was the same one who advocated for the rights of women in that year as well. We like him. Our births in 1832. June 9th, Martha Waldron James, not James, James.
Oh.
She was an American minister, social reformer, and columnist. She's the first woman ordained in the Free Baptist Church Conference. She was a Gemini. June 11th, this is a name, Lucy Petway Holcomb Pickens.
Nice.
We'll see. We'll see how she is. She was an American socialite in Tennessee and Texas and was known as, quote, the Queen of the Confederacy. Could be problematic. She was also the first lady of South Carolina at one point, and this is the reason that me and Leah will know her, and just because of our history here, she is the one who shaped the stereotype of a Southern belle.
Oh.
So, could be problematic, but that's where the whole Southern belle thing comes from, is from her. Well, because she was the American socialite in Tennessee and in Texas, and so she kind of like helped, she push all that through. August 20th, and she was a Gemini as well. August 20th, Thaddeus... This is another name. Thaddeus Sobeski Constantine Lowe.
Wow.
AKA Professor T.A.C. Lowe. That's what he was called. He was self-educated in chemistry, meteorology, and aeronautics.
Wow.
He is known as the father of the military aerial reconnaissance in the United States.
Sounds like a pretty smart guy.
He's a Leo as well. September 25th, William LeBaron Jenney. He was an American architect and engineer. We have also discussed him before because he is known for building the first skyscraper in 1884, and he is known as the father of the American skyscraper. We discussed this in our Chicago episode. The home insurance building in Chicago was the first skyscraper ever. It does not exist anymore because of American progress. Thank you very much. But yes, he was the first one to create skyscrapers. He is a Libra. November 7th, Andrew Dickinson White. He was a historian, diplomat, and co-founder of Cornell University. So a little bit of funness there. He is a Scorpio. I believe. I didn't put it there. Pretty sure he's a Scorpio. Who knows? All right.
Not me.
Let's see. November. Why did I put these backwards? These are out of order. Okay, we'll start with the one that should be correct. November 20th, Louisa May Alcott was born.
I love her.
She is a novelist, short story writer, and poet. She is most well known for writing the story Little Women, and she is a Sagittarius.
That's one of my all-time favorite books.
Raise your hand if you could have figured that out. November 26th, The Doctor.
Do you not like that book?
I never loved it. No, there was something about it that bothered me. But you know how I am. So
I do know how you am.
You can see how that would bother me. Like, I just don't. Give me a murder mystery. Anyways, November 26th, Dr. Mary Walker.
Uh-oh.
It's only fitting that we end with her in the births for this year because of who she is. She is an abolitionist, prohibitionist, prisoner of war, and surgeon.
There you go.
She is the only woman to ever receive a Medal of Honor.
Cool.
She's a Sagittarius. See, now, if Little Women had been about her, I'd have been on board.
But now Jo was a pretty awesome chick.
She was. There's something about Little Women that bothered me, and I don't know what it was. Probably just like the whole, I don't know.
It was interesting to see how different all four girls were.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they were all raised by the same mother, they were all four so different.
I think that has to do with birth
order.
Birth order.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure it does, but just I don't know how different they all four were and how they reacted to their dad being away, and I don't know.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. There was something about Little Women I never cared for, and I. The thing is, I had to read it like twice. I had to for school.
Oh, see, I read it for funsies.
See, but it was never a book that I was like, oh, like let me just pick this book up and read. So I would not have read it had I not had to read it. But even there were books that I had to read that I really ended up enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
And then Flowers for Algernon, not one of them. If you know, then you know.
Did you read Gone with the Wind?
No. I watched Gone with the Wind. I would not, you know me as well, would not have read Gone with the Wind. I barely watched Gone with the Wind.
My sister's not a fan, but it's one of my other favorites.
I do not like Gone with the Wind.
I do.
It's just, so annoing.
But I love Scarlett.
This is where my Jody comes in. Like, this is where I become your sister. Because I can't with that nonsense. But yeah, Flowers for Algernon, that one got me. That one. And I had to read Flowers for Algernon more than once.
Oh, gosh. And I do not enjoy that one.
Oh, gosh. There's some books that I'm just like, why?
Really? Yeah.
Well, and then
Fahrenheit 451.
I did like Fahrenheit 451 as an allegory.
I did not enjoy that one.
I liked The Great Gatsby.
I hated The Great Gatsby.
I loved The Great Gatsby.
Hated it.
I think I liked The Great Gatsby because it's very psychological.
And one reason I really didn't like it was I had to read it and I was on a trip and I was not having fun on the trip, and that have bled over to it. But I don't know. I really didn't.
There was a lot. It was one of those books that they shouldn't have had us read it when we did because we were probably too young to understand what was going on anyways, because I really enjoyed it because of the teacher that I had, because she pulled a lot of stuff out and was like, well, what do you think this means? And you really learned how much different things meant and things like that. But it's a very interesting story. Flowers for Algernon, though, I'll never get over. I will and I hope my child never has to read that because it ruined me.
Of Mice and Men,
we never had to read that.
Oh, it was like we had choices for some.
Yeah, we had choices for some reading too.
I started reading it and I didn't get through the first chapter. The language was just too much for me, and I was like, nope, can't do it.
We had some books that were interesting that we had to read, but I don't remember what I chose for most of my summer reading. But yeah, we had to. When I was in high school, I took an advanced history class, and no one told me that there was going to be a reading. It's fine.
I didn't sign up for this.
I had to read a book that's called, I had to read the Communist Manifesto.
Ew.
That was a whole thing in and of itself. That was not easy to read. And then I had to read this book called The Jungle. Oh my gosh. If you ever have to read The Jungle, I apologize. It is bad. It is really bad, which, funny enough, kind of connects to like the time period that we are in history right now, because it's very much like immigrants coming to the United States, and The Jungle deals with the meat packing industry at that time.
No.
It is gross.
Yeah. I don't think I'd
It's
like
like it was, and I understand why we had to read it for history, but it is brutal.
Yuck.
Like, I mean, some of the descriptions of stuff, and not just like the meat packing industry in itself, but like how some people would die. It was just, I was a freshman and I had to read that and I was like, oh no,
That's
this
bad.
is not good. But I would never, yeah, I'm sorry if anybody has to read The Jungle. Not a good one. Moving on to deaths.
Yeah, sorry.
In 1832, November 14th, we have Charles Carroll. He was the last surviving signer of the Declaration of Independence. End of an era. December 22nd, Ishmael Spicer died. He was a teacher and one of the first American composers, and he founded the first singing school at the courthouse in Baltimore, Maryland. Mm-hmm. And on to our story this week, August of 1832, a group of 57 Irish immigrants died or were murdered while working on a stretch of railway called Duffy's Cut outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And that is why our story this week is called The Duffy's Cut Murders.
This does not sound very fun. Now, we ended the year with nobody dying, and now, bam, we start 57. The year with 57.
Well,
I mean,
we'll get into it.
Boom.
So, this is another week where we aren't going to technically cover a specific city. We will cover a little bit, but more of an area. So, Duffy's Cut is a stretch of railway originally built for the Philadelphia and Columbia Railroad in the late summer and fall of 1832. The name Duffy's Cut comes from the railroad contractor Philip Duffy. The line later became part of the Pennsylvania Railroad's main line, which went on to be the largest transportation enterprise and largest corporation in the world.
Whoa.
Its budget was only second to the U.S. government. The specific location of our history today takes place in East Whiteland Township, Pennsylvania, located in Chester County. East Whiteland Township was founded in 1704 as only Whiteland Township and is now split into East and West, kind of like East Egg and West Egg in The Great Gatsby. Anyway, I can always tie it back. The original settlers were Welsh and from Wales. The Native Americans called the area the Dark Valley because of the amount of trees in the area. The Lapp Log House, St. Peter's Church in the Great Valley, Spring Mill Complex, and White Horse Tavern are all listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Pennsylvania Railroad consisted of the Philadelphia and Columbia Railroad, canals up the Susquehanna and Junita rivers, a cable railway system called the Allegheny Portage Railroad, a tunnel across the Allegheny Mountains, and canals down the Conemaugh and Allegheny rivers to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The bulk of our episode today will deal with the case and the updates since the case.
Updates.
There will be different theories, and at the end, we will discuss which one we think is more likely. Philip Duffy was born in Ireland in 1783. Just 15 years later, he witnessed the United Irishmen Rebellion and fled with a few friends from Ireland to America with the hope of a new life. Duffy decided to settle in Philadelphia County in Pennsylvania. He would travel for work on the railway, and in 1813, Duffy applied for naturalization in order to be known as a U.S. citizen, and he did eventually become one by the time he was 30. Duffy worked his way up the ladder and went from railroad laborer to a contractor who was responsible for hiring and supervising the other laborers on public works projects.
Good for him.
We'll get to him. For the people who are outside of the U.S. or people who just don't know. Public works in the United States, they include roads, schools, reservoirs, which are carried out by the government for the betterment of the community, but they're also funded by the government. Those are all public works. The first time Duffy's name is known to be listed as a contractor was on a railroad contract in February of 1829, where he is listed as a partner with his brother-in-law, James Smith. The contract was to work on Section 16 of the Philadelphia and Columbia Railroad. Duffy was so successful in developing that section of the railway that he received his own contract in June of 1829 to continue work on to mile 60 of the rail line. So at this time, all of the rail lines, they did it a mile. The contract was given out a mile at a time. And so it was either given to you as a section or it was the actual mile number that you were working on. So he was on section 16 and they gave him mile 60.
Okay.
So that was kind of how they did their contracts, was based on the section of area that
Well,
it was
that makes sense. I mean, you have to be able to break it down somehow.
Right. So, oh, there we are. He leaned heavily on his Irish roots to get other Irish immigrants to work for him, and the crew that he hired to work on mile 60 was described as, quote, a sturdy-looking band of the sons of Aaron. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, probably anyone outside of Ireland won't know, Aaron is another name for Ireland. So sons of Aaron is literally just men from Ireland.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So the work on mile 60 was intense, and Duffy had his crew finish it in record time. The efforts of the workers were called Herculean, and their hard work helped Duffy make a name for himself as a hardworking contractor who was able to have work completed ahead of schedule. Just 11 months after his work on mile 60, Duffy was given a contract for what later became known as the most expensive, the most difficult, and most dangerous mile of railroad on the entire railway line.
This is setting us up for something.
This is the mile that became known as Duffy's Cut.
Mm.
Duffy's Cut is actually mile 59 on the railway, and the contract for it was presented on May 18th of 1831. It had to be completed in 11 months, and it had to be completed by April 1st of 1832. Spoiler, this did not happen. The goal of the contract involved 3 steps, which included filling the valley, creating a culvert for the stream, and breaking down the existing hillside. While Duffy was known as someone who exceeded expectations in the deadline department, this was not one of those projects due to how difficult the terrain was to work on. There was an original Duffy's Cut crew that wasn't able to complete the work due to how hard it was to break apart the limestone on mile 59. Duffy was so far behind on the contract that he needed to hire an entirely new crew to finish the contract out, and hopefully the delay wouldn't impact his reputation too much.
So I don't understand why you had to hire a new crew.
Because they all left.
They were like,
yeah, they were like,
okay.
we're done. We've been trying to blast out limestone by hand for months now, and we can't. We're done. They would have gotten me for about 30 seconds, and I would have quit. I would have looked at it and like hit it with a pickaxe and been like, I'm out.
Yeah,
but thanks, but no thanks. So the work was so grueling, in fact, that when railroad contractors approached, I hate this word, but slave owners with the opportunity to have their slaves, their opportunity for their slaves, to work on the railways, the quote, owners would not allow them to participate in it. It was more likely that they were just afraid they wouldn't get their slaves back due to the work, not for sympathy of the slaves of how hard the work actually was.
Yeah.
But the work was so difficult that like even slave owners were like, no.
Yeah.
Even regardless of how much the government was going to pay them, because the government was going to pay them like a lot of money for you. And they were like, no. We discussed it in our Halligan Daily case, if you want to go back to episode 7, that Irish Catholics were not highly thought of at this time. And in reference to their status in society, they were considered the lowest of the low, and they would do anything that they could to get work. They were also blamed for everything, as we saw in that case. This is important to note because this applied to the way the railway crews operated. Catholics were given the heavy labor positions of breaking up stone and manually hauling dirt in and out, while Protestants were the ones simply finishing off the tracks. The work that the Protestants were assigned didn't result in a high death rate. As far as the men that Duffy hired, they were considered expendable, and that sentiment came directly from Duffy, who was an Irish immigrant himself and Catholic.
That makes it a little worse.
In June, yeah, it's bad. In June of 1832, a group of Irish immigrants disembarked from the ship they traveled on for almost 3 months to get to the United States. Before everyone, this I found very interesting given the state of the world that we live in right now. So weird how history repeats itself. And I have a feeling that this is one thing that will be coming back very soon, again, based on the state of the world that we live in. Before everyone arrived in Philadelphia, the ship had to stop at the first quarantine hospital in the country called Lazaretto. They had to make sure that no one showed symptoms of cholera on the ship before they would allow the ship to continue to port. I don't feel like we're far off from that, because you saw now they don't want people to get on cruise ships, period. Yeah. So don't think we're far off from that, honestly. But Lazaretto was one of the first quarantine hospitals in the country, period. So everyone was cleared and the passengers were granted passage into the United States. Just a side note here, many people believed that Irish immigrants were to blame for the spread of cholera in the United States.
Of course they did.
But the illness actually came into the United States from Canada, down the Hudson River to New York, and then on to Pennsylvania. Canadians. Always want to act like they're so nice, eh? Cholera. Anyways. So.
Bam! Cholera. Bam!
What's his name? Emerald? Bam! Cholera. Never know when it's going to hit you. And there were 57 men and 2 women that arrived in Philadelphia hoping to be hired to start a new life. Philip Duffy was there to welcome them, and he hired a large group of Irish immigrants near the Washington Avenue Immigration Station. Immigration Station sounds funny.
It rhymes.
It does rhyme, which is also weird, which reminds me of, oh my gosh, Schoolhouse Rock.
Yep,
Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Working out multiplication of music. Anyways, this is stupid stuff my brain remembers, guys.
I'm just a big
yeah, that's. And what's funny is I think that's the one that everyone remembers, but mine is the multiplication one because I was really bad at multiplication, and my mom may or may not have made me watch Schoolhouse Rock a lot of times.
I put it in for my preschoolers all the time.
You know, I would just like to say to my past math teachers, I now have a calculator in my pocket. Thank you very much. You always said that I wouldn't. Liars.
This is true.
They did not know the future. Anyways. So, less than 8 weeks after the group was hired, all of the workers were dead and buried in the freshly disturbed earth near the railroad.
How long?
Less than 8 weeks later.
Oh.
But what happened to them? There are rumors
they died.
Well, but how? There are rumors as to what occurred, and the thoughts ranged from a cholera outbreak to a mass murder and burial. Just a few yards away from the work site, the workers made themselves a makeshift shanty, and it's said that in August of 1832, cholera had made its way to the shanty. Cholera was sneaky in how it was transmitted and how it was passed between towns. But at this time, no one knew how it was being transmitted. And unfortunately for them, It came from contaminated drinking water.
Yep.
At this time, cholera was labeled as a global pandemic, as in what we are living in now. Thanks, COVID. And I do not have COVID, BT dubs. I've already had it. And I already have my vaccine. So not COVID. Anyways, it caused uncontrollable vomiting and digestive distress. Didn't want to go into exactly what all that meant, so we're just leaving it there. The workers realized what was going on, and some tried to flee to nearby farms, but they were turned away due to the fear of cholera. 4 nuns from the Sisters of Charity in Philadelphia, who were also nurses, traveled out to the shanty to try and help. The nuns were shamed for their work, and it wasn't just the fear of contamination that caused the backlash, but also the anti-Catholic sentiment popular at the time. The nuns were forced to walk back the 30 miles to the convent from the shanty in the summer heat because no one would help them get back.
That's mean.
By the end of August of 1832, everyone was dead. The newspapers tried to downplay how bad everything actually was, and they wouldn't report on the specific number of workers that were found dead. In fact, the National Gazette and Literary Register published an article which stated that, quote, "It is reported that several cases have occurred lower down the Great Valley among the laborers on the Pennsylvania Railroad." And that's all they said.
Several.
Just several. And just cases, not deaths.
Yeah.
So, one rumor is that a vigilante group made up of individuals connected to the East Whiteland Horse Company were to blame. There is some weight behind this one because the East Whiteland Horse Company was owned by the Pratt family, not Chris Pratt.
I was going to say, I know that name.
He's now at Kennedy, which is very weird to say. Did you know that?
But just by marriage.
By marriage. Because the Schwarzeneggers are Kennedys by marriage. Because Maria Shriver is a Kennedy.
Yes.
Anyways.
But their divorce is final, by the way.
I could have been a Kennedy. Who?
Arnold and Maria. It's final.
Well, he's still bad blood. Because his daughter, Catherine.
Well, yeah. Anyway. I'm just saying. That was in the news. Anyway, continue.
Only in America can Donald Trump become the president and Arnold Schwarzenegger can be the governor of California. Anyway. Was it Jerry Springer was like the mayor of...
He was the mayor of like Chicago.
Chicago or something. Yeah. So weird. Anyways. Good show, Jerry Springer. Where was I? There we are. The Pratt family also owned Mile 59 that was Duffy's cut that the crew was working on. The story goes that the crew was surrounded and murdered by gunshots and axe blows to the head.
Ooh.
Then Duffy made sure that the workers were thrown into a mass grave, and he tried to keep the story quiet in the press because he was afraid it would deter other Irish immigrants from working with him.
Well, I mean, maybe. Perhaps.
This would cause the project to fall further behind, and he would possibly lose future contract jobs as well. He quickly and quietly hired another crew, the third crew for those who are counting, to come in and finish Mile 59.
Mercy.
As I said before, the current sentiment was that immigrants were bringing in cholera, and this group of misguided vigilantes thought that they were going to try and stop it. Dr. William Watson, a history professor guys, you know how sometimes your brain will look at something and it doesn't matter how many times it looks at it, it still doesn't look right and you still don't think you can say it right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the name of this college.
Okay.
Not all of that, because that'd be a very long name for a college. Immaculata, which does not sound right because it's in the U.S. Anyways, that university, he was there, and he was a director of the Duffy's Cut project. He stated that, quote, "People would have resented these Irish guys underbidding local labor. They were exploited to death building the infrastructure of America. No one advocated for them.
Mm.
There were only 119 people in East Whiteland at the time. None of them were Catholic. All Duffy wanted to do was get the mile done. He was Catholic himself. He was selling out his own countrymen. The bottom line was the dollar and nothing else. Building the railroad was the biggest industrial endeavor in Pennsylvania at the time, and they are literally buried in it.
Mm.
The second rumor that we have to go off of is that everyone simply died of cholera and that Duffy buried them before anyone knew of what happened in order to save his reputation. But we'll see. Sometimes there are stories that don't ever have an end, and we rarely have anything from this time that can tie back to the events in recent years. But the man I mentioned just a bit ago, Dr. William Bill Watson, and we'll call him Bill for a lot of the rest of the time. A lot of the things that I read about him called him Bill. Is the reason that we have found out so much more information than previously attained about Duffy's Cut. It all started on a night in September of 2000 when Watson and his friend, and I put not Sherlock, disappointing.
I kind of had that
Yeah.
that same thought. Thank you.
Anyways,
Thank you.
his friend's name was Tom Connor, not at all Sherlock, but it's
Not at
fine.
all.
Or Benedict Cumberbatch, but that's neither here nor there. They were sitting in Watson's office on the university campus. The men were looking out the window and noticed lights floating near the facility. Noticed lights floating near the faculty center. Watson said the lights were, quote, shimmery like neon in the figure of 3 thin men. Then, as fast as they appeared, they were gone. Time passed and he started to forget about the figures. Then 2 years later, Watson was visiting his brother Frank, and the two started reminiscing on the stories their grandfather, Joseph F. again. Trapesian? Sure. Had told them growing up.
Sure.
That's what we're going with. Frank was also a historian. His brother, so Bill's brother, Frank, was also a historian, and he was a Lutheran minister. During the conversation, the stories about the ghosts of Duffy's Cut were brought up, and the memories of the night 2 years earlier came back to Bill. Many people near the Cut dismissed the stories of ghosts as folklore, but the facts that the Watson brothers knew added more credibility than anyone knew. Their grandfather Joseph was a secretary to Martin Clement, who just happened to be the 11th president of the Pennsylvania Railroad. In 1909, Clement heard the story about Duffy's Cut, and he wanted to find out what really happened and why there wasn't any information with the railroad.
Yeah.
None.
I mean, let's get a little bit of something. People died here.
Right. So he decided to start a file with all of the conclusive information he could find and any evidence that could lead to answers. In this file, he had 2 statements from railroad employee Julian Saxe and correspondence between railroad employees. He held on to this file and continued adding to it until his death in 1968. That was when this file went to the Watson brothers' grandfather, and in 1977, when their grandfather died, the file was passed on to Frank. The brothers started taking apart the file and trying to put everything in chronological order and started to think there was more to this ghost story than just their grandfather trying to scare them. The railroad employee, Julian Saxe, said in his statement, quote, I saw with my own eyes the ghosts of the Irishmen who died of cholera a month ago, dancing around the big trench where they were buried.
Dancing?
They looked as if they were kind of green and blue fire. Once Bill read this, he called his friend that saw the lights with him years before and said that he now knew what they saw that night. Immediately, they put a team together of historians and volunteers to go through all of the state and local archives to find anything they could on Duffy's Cut. The more information they found, the more stories weren't lining up with one another. In August of 2004, the team had grown to include a geophysicist, a deputy coroner, an archaeologist, and a forensic dentist. They set off to Duffy's Cut and started digging. The locals were less than pleased with the disruption, and Bill said that, quote, people told us we were chasing ghosts and that we would never find the bodies.
Oh.
Finally, in November of 2005, they found a piece of a clay pipe, and according to the archaeologists in the group, it is, quote, the oldest example of Irish nationalism found in North America.
Cool.
But it would be another 4 years of digging before they would find anything else. In March of 2009, in a grove of trees, they found skull fragments, a tibia, and more than 80 other human bones. Ew. What they found was more concerning than they had anticipated. Sure, they expected to see some decomposition of the remains because it had been almost 200 years. But when one of the skulls found had blunt force trauma, their suspicions were all but confirmed. 6 more sets of skeletal remains were found, and a 7th was located under a poplar tree, but they were not able to obtain it immediately. This is actually super freaking cool. In July of 2011, the tree fell, and finally, they could start excavation on the 7th body. But why did they have to wait? The bone had fused with the tree roots.
Okay, that's cool.
And the tree had fed off of the human remains over the years. The tree had to naturally die in order to avoid any damage to the skeleton. Which just sounds so cool to me. Like, that's really cool.
That's
it's just weird how, like, in
and then the timing of it.
Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, where he said life finds a way. That's what that always reminds me of. It's like life finds a way. Love Jeff Goldblum. Anyways, it's fine. I love Jurassic Park anyways. So you also get to see Jurassic Park. But when you go to Universal Studios, it's a lot of fun. So, yes, 3 of the 7 sets of bones showed significant signs of blunt force trauma. Watson believed that some of the Irish workers at Duffy's Cut might have been buried alive.
Oh.
Yeah, which was, and they might have done that during the stage of cholera that's known as cold cholera. At this point in the disease's lethal progress, it's possible to appear dead even though the individual is still alive.
Oh.
I know. The forensic dentist started looking at one of the skeletons and noticed a major dental anomaly that only occurs in 1 in 100,000 people due to a series of excellent record keeping. Honestly, don't know who kept these records, but they did a fantastic job. They were able to positively identify the remains as 18-year-old John Ruddy. Another set of remains was also given her identity as Catherine Burns. 6 of the bodies were ceremoniously laid to rest at West Laurel Cemetery, and that is actually in Pennsylvania. There's a reason that I say that. And that was done in March of 2012. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, there were over 500 people in attendance. Amongst the crowd was Kevin Conamy, the deputy chief of mission at the Irish Embassy in Washington, D.C. Conamy stated that the burial was important, quote, for the millions of Irish people who have made this leap over the centuries. In March of 2013, Ruddy, who was one of the ones that was identified, was given a ceremonial burial at the Church of the Holy Family, and I am probably not going to say this right, and I apologize. The Church of the Royal Family in Ardara in, I think it's Donegal, maybe. I hope, I'm sorry, in Ireland. But they got his remains. They sent them back to Ireland for him to be interred in Ireland.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Finally,
did they find his family?
I don't know. I couldn't find too much further on it. I believe they might have found some descendants.
That'd be pretty cool.
Right. So finally, 7 of the immigrants from the John Stamp which was the ship that came across, were put to rest. But the search for the others continued. From a 2020 article, it has been confirmed that a total of 19 bodies have been found and identified in more recent years. The team speculates that the other remains are closer to the railroad tracks, and that land belongs to Amtrak because Amtrak now owns that railway. They would need extensive permission to dig that area, and if granted, an Irish contractor by the name of Joe Devoy will be handling the excavation. Wow. And I just put, it's a bit ironic that an Irish contractor will be excavating bodies buried by an Irish contractor.
I mean, yeah, but...
The tale of Duffy's Cut is very similar to the average 19th century Irish immigrant, and the full story is yet to be uncovered. Historian and late team member, he's now since passed on, John Atz, once said, quote, "Throughout history," this was just like, this one got me, because it's very true. And in a lot of stories that we've discussed, this has also been very true. And this was just one of those comments that hit like a little bit too close. He is a late team member of the crew that was exhuming the bodies. He said, "Throughout history, human lives have different values at different places and at different times," which is just sad. Yeah. A little bit of a up from that. A fun story that I did find was from 2018 about Doylestown Brewery. They came out with their own brew called Duffy's Cut, which I just found really funny. And it was to honor those long ago Irish immigrants that died there. The brewery gave a percentage of every case of Irish-style red ale Duffy's Cut it sells to help fund the dig at Duffy's Cut for the exhumation of the bodies. So it was fun.
That's very cool.
For any future updates, you can go to duffyscutproject.com, and they also accept donations for further excavation if you would like to go there and donate. And Dr. Bill Watson, he's still one of the main people that's helping fund all of that and helping, find all these people. And I put here that I only think that it's fitting to put here the names of the identified workers. So they are Catherine Burns, who is the only female as of right now that I could find that we could identify.
But there were only 2, right? Didn't you say there were only 2?
Up to the point of that. Since then, they've now identified 19. So.
I mean, I thought on the
that were
on the ship. There were only 2 on the ship. Oh, okay, my bad.
So Catherine Burns. Then we have George Doherty, who's 28, John Ruddy, who is 18. And these are all Irish names, so I may or may not get them right. William Putil, he was 20. William Devine, he was 21. Daniel McCahill, 25. Bernie McGarity, 20. David Patchill, 20. Bernard McElhaney, 23. George Quigley, 22. John McGlone, 23. John McLannan, 24. James Devney, 26. Patrick McAnamy, 20. And last but not least, Samuel Forbes, 23.
They were all so young.
So, yeah, the oldest was 28.
I mean,
that's been identified so far.
They were all so young.
So, and you can go on the duffyscutproject.com. You can go on their website, and they do have like the list, and it does say specifically where they're from, like the parts of Ireland that they were from. It breaks it down. So young.
I mean, and they were coming here to
find a better life, and then when they came here, they found out that it was way worse than what they were dealing with back at home, which I believe was like the Irish kind of revolution at that time.
Kind of almost like a civil war.
Yeah. And so it was very disheartening to see. And I mean, and they're still having a hard time finding a lot of the bodies. They know that they're there.
Yeah.
But they're having a hard time digging up a lot of different areas of them. So We'll never really know exactly what happened at Duffy's Cut. I think that it's a mixture of all of it.
Mm.
I think that possibly some were murdered. I think that what could have happened is that um, I think that there were a lot of people who did die. I think that the cold cholera does have something to do with it as well, that
Mhm.
they thought that some people were dead. And then I also think that there were a group who were not dead yet. And they went ahead and figured, kind of like everyone's tainted already, so we're just gonna start fresh and be done. I think that's what happened. Um, there's no explanation for that many people to be dead at one time. Like, there's no,
Yeah.
they didn't all just die of cholera. Because did they all bury themselves?
Yeah.
Like,
Who did that?
yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. So, and if they did all die of cholera, then that would be the story. It would be very just,
Yeah.
they all died of cholera.
Why not record that?
Right.
Why not say that?
Very odd story, but very interesting one that I didn't know about. And nobody really knows what happened at Duffy's Cut. So,
but you said on one there was blunt force trauma.
mm-hmm.
So I mean,
So there's been some debate as to whether, and that was one thing that I did see. There's been some debate as to whether it was blunt force trauma or whether the decomposition over time showed that. However,
sure.
the original coroner who reviewed everything said that you cannot account for bullet holes as decomposition.
Mm.
So he did say that there was some, even though the bodies were not well preserved because they were not, they were just literally thrown into a mass grave. He did say that it was, highly unlikely that all of the damage came from decomposition alone.
Mm.
So that is that. And yeah, it's very interesting. There is a book on it about Duffy's Cut that Dr. Bill Watson wrote. So if anybody wants to go find that, you can. You can also, like I said, go to the website, duffyscutproject.com. It's still going. They still have stuff. I think it might be kind of dwindling at this point. So if anybody would like to go and just show your support for it, if nothing else, I'm sure Dr. Watson would appreciate it. He's put a lot of time and effort into this, and honestly into something that a lot of people thought was stupid. And they thought this is not. They're not. Truly, the town told them, you are chasing ghosts. You will never find bodies.
Yeah.
And they found bodies.
I mean, why would they not? I mean,
it's one of those things that through time people just thought it's like an old wives' tale.
Yeah.
Like, it's not true. It's just, this is just something that people say. And it's true. So it's just very interesting and also disheartening, because this also goes back to, and while the plight is nowhere near the same, but it still goes back to our Patty Cannon episode where, like, you have so much hate towards a specific group of people.
Yeah.
And not only that, he was an Irish Catholic immigrant and he didn't care about them.
Yeah.
And he still grouped them as like, oh, those Irish Catholic immigrants. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You mean yourself? Like, stuff like that just irritates me so bad, because it's just like and just like that, the guy who had also helped on the excavation, where he said, like, throughout history, human lives have had different values at different times and at different places. And that's just so unfortunate. Like,
well, it's not unfortunate. It's just wrong.
it is. It's
And-
so
and
wrong
that-
and
that-
sad.
It makes me angry, and I mean, it takes a lot to make me angry. I'm a pretty happy, jovial, get along with everybody kind of person. But one thing that makes me so angry is just ignorance and just not liking somebody without even knowing them, not liking somebody just because of, the color of their skin, or how they choose to live, or how they choose to worship, or where they're from, something that they can't even control. They can't control where they were born. They
Their
can't control
socioeconomic
what they
status.
look like.
You
Right.
can't, I mean, that's what's so, especially when it comes to kids, like, kids can't control that. And that always just kills, which I've talked about it before. And like, my past and stuff that happened with me, like, I can't control anything that happened in my life. I can't control decisions that my father made. I can't
Right.
control those things, but I'm held responsible for that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a child. Like, stuff like that's never made sense to me. And even while this wasn't a specific like race issue as far as like color, it was an issue as far as you're different than us
Well,
because
yeah, just being different,
you're different. You're
different.
Catholic of all. It's like, okay, that's what you're gonna pick at. Okay,
Yeah.
they're Catholic. All right, they speak a little funny. I get that, but like, I mean, they're Irish. I get they're not British, so they don't speak just like you do. But I mean,
if that's the case, then I wouldn't have married my husband, y'all. My husband speaks. Y'all think I sound country?
Michael, I would never say these things about you.
She said them and worse.
He knows the truth.
But I mean, y'all, I love my husband, and he was made for me. Bless his heart.
He's from the outskirts,
but he is more. He speaks more country than I do. And it's fine. I love it. I think it's precious. But I mean, just because he speaks differently than me doesn't mean that I don't like him. You know what I mean? I mean,
and then
I don't get that.
You get the one from the outskirts town on the country, and I get the one that's North Atlanta. So,
but it does make me angry that people are so prejudiced about stuff like that. Just
it's very aggravating.
I mean, first impressions are a real thing, absolutely. But I mean, take the time to try to connect with somebody.
Find commonality with someone.
Try to talk to somebody.
I mean, everybody has something that they can. I mean, truly, truly, truly. I am not. We've discussed this a number of times. I am not a social person. I don't like to be social with other people. I'm sure this says more about me than it does anything else, but I feel very awkward in social situations sometimes. If I don't like going to someone's house that I've never been to before because I don't know where to park. Like, that is a genuine concern of mine.
No.
It's like that concerns me. Like, it bothers me to go somewhere that I don't know where I'm going, and I will obsess over parking. Like, it's the weirdest thing. Like, because in my mind, it's like, you just go and you park. Like, it's not hard. You just go. But it gives me anxiety, like stuff like that. But guys, like, if I can find something in common with people, like, you can find something in common with people. I mean, it just is what it is. And if you truly can't, then you know what? You don't have to talk to that person.
Yes.
You just have to be kind and move forward.
The effort.
Like, it's fine. Life moves on, people.
Yes. Just be kind. Just be kind to people.
Be kind and don't murder.
I mean, there you go.
So, if you would like any tips on how to be kind, you might not find them at our website, but you might. Who knows? You can go there and find any and all ONUC information you are looking for. It is onenationundercrime.com. We are One Nation Under Crime on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and at ONUC Pod on Twitter. If you love our podcast as much as we do, and we know you do, go leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Go to Patreon and become a Patreon subscriber. You will start to get USBS episodes this month, guys. So go for it. You can be like Ryan. You can be a cool kid, and you can increase your Patreon donation, or you can start a Patreon donation there. Ryan has some goodies coming in the mail to him as soon as I put them in the mail. And
as soon as they get
put in the mail. And so you can be a cool kid like that as well. If not, you're still a cool kid at heart, maybe.
You'll be even cooler with
you'll be even cooler.
Our gratitude.
You'll be a part of the cool kids club.
That's right.
But so thank you for listening to us this week. Thank you for listening to my sick ramblings.
Like legit sick.
Sick. Dealing with my voice because I'm sure it sounds weird this week, but I greatly appreciate it. We will see you here, same time,
different crime,
next week. And remember that there isn't always liberty and justice for all, especially if you're Catholic in the 1830s. Goodbye.
Bye.